Hello, everyone. Welcome, everyone. As you can see, I'm very excited this morning. Happy November 2nd. Thank you for everyone who has joined. We know there are some of you joining by Facebook and some of you joining by Zoom. So thank you so much. Saturdays are really busy, so we are really excited when you all join us. My name is Marian Amwa, and I'm the author of Breaking Through: The Immigrant's Handbook for Thriving in the American Workplace. I'm also the author of A Routine for Life, which is the children's book. I have the teacher's manual and the children's activity book. But today, we are here to talk about thriving in the workplace. And I will be your hostess and facilitator for our conversation. I have an incredible lady, friend, sister who will share her story, her journey as an immigrant from Nigeria. She will share with you her strength, tenacity, grit, and will to succeed, and where she is in the journey. You know, the title of the book is Breaking Through. And for those of you who don't know the book, there's a book, and it's specifically breaking through because it's a journey. We never arrive. We are always learning. And I'm glad that Yetunde describes herself as a lifelong learner. Not only is she a learner, I've known this woman, she's a teacher, she's a mentor, she's many things, but I've known her also as I've said a teacher, and not to embarrass her, some years back, we, in our children's church, she was teaching, this is a good story, she was teaching our children and teaching them about the fruit of the spirit, kindness, the things, the fruit of the spirit, faith, joy. And she said that the end of that verse is against like there is no law. And I heard her tell the children that when you go to court or when somebody takes you to court, something like there's no court that will rule against you for being kind. But the way she taught it has really, really stuck with me all these years. So thank you for all you do in the community, at home with friends and all that. But it is my hope that through these conversations, you are inspired, empowered, and challenged to chart your own path. Please feel free to put your questions, your comments, your suggestions, share us on both of us in both Facebook and Zoom, and we'll get to them. We say feedback is a gift, so please keep your comments and questions coming. So Yetunde, welcome. I'm so glad to have you today, not only because you're going to share this story, but I feel like I've been part of your journey, and I've seen
Absolutely.
the I've seen the journey and the success, the challenges, but where you are, just you make us all proud. So welcome. I would like you to, so please help me welcome in the chat, but I would like you to introduce yourself to our audience, a few fun facts about yourself, and then we'll get into the questions.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, my sister, friend, partner,
Yes.
my leader in the children's ministry. We used to get up to some fun things,
Yes.
and I'm so excited that you've called me on and you've called me to do this. I'm honored. I'm humbled as well. Thank you for bringing me on. I appreciate it. We have lots of stories. But some of them we'll keep to ourselves. We have so many stories to say. So thank you so much for
Yes.
inviting me. And I'm so happy to be here with everyone.
Welcome. Welcome, dear. So a few fun facts. Don't go into depth. Just a few fun facts. Maybe something I don't even know about you.
Okay. Fun facts. I want to say I'm a curious person. I'm the last of five children born to Babatunde and Grace Williams in Lagos, Nigeria. Um, I do love a good adventure. I'm one of those who will seek out something fun to do in the midst of nothing. Fun facts, I love to cook as well. I've gotten into some fierce debates in your house about Nigerian jollof rice versus all the
Please don't
others.
go
We
there.
won't name all the others today because all the others are somewhere. The Nigerian jollof rice is somewhere. Let's not talk about that. But I make a very good jollof rice, Auntie Marian, as you would attest. But we won't talk about jollof rice today. Thank you so much for that question.
Oh, please. Please don't get me started. We don't want to vote. We could have taken a vote. It's been jollof rice, it's been puff puff or both fruit, as the Ghanaians say. This like some kind of donut for those of you who don't know. But I'm sure you all know the debate about the Ghana jollof rice and then the Nigerian jollof rice, not to throw into the mix the Sierra Leonean jollof rice, but
So
today I have to be very impartial, but it's all good jollof rice. Okay, great, 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 great. I like the part that you talked about being curious, being curious. I'm sure we'll get into that. But tell us about your journey as an immigrant, how you
sure, sure.
started. For those of you who don't know, if you didn't see the flyer, Yetunde is a CFO and an executive vice president of Metro. She'll get into that. Sometimes people just see where you are, but there was a journey and want to
Sure,
hear about. Tell us a little bit about your background, your education,
sure,
your
sure.
career choice.
Absolutely. So I moved from Nigeria back in 1995. I went to Tuskegee University. My brother and I moved. I was a finance major, so my first degree is a Bachelor of Science in Finance. I graduated with honors by God's grace as well. Moving from Nigeria to Tuskegee, Alabama, very different culture, different environment. But it was one step at a time. We took that journey. While I was at Tuskegee, actually met some really interesting people, had the opportunity to study and to intern while I was in the course of my studies. And I spent a summer in Minneapolis working for Honeywell. I did that. It worked out so well. I was offered a permanent position after I left school. So I graduated and I moved straight to Minneapolis. I don't know if you guys have been to Minneapolis when it's not summer, but I originally visited when it was summer and it was nice and warm. I was very excited. And then the winter hit me when I finally moved. Anyway, I spent about a year in Honeywell in Minneapolis before I moved to Maryland, where I married my husband, Ade Olumide. Ade is good friends with my brother, my one of my brothers. I have three brothers, and I stole him from my brother, as I claim is one of the things that maybe I can say I stole legally. I stole him from my brother. He became my friend, and and then we eventually got married. So journey from Nigeria, again, schooling in Alabama. I moved to Minneapolis and then I moved to Maryland thereafter. Some things in that duration, that time span, I think definitely helped to mold me as an individual, as a professional. Um, I learned to lean on God. Away from my parents and immediate family, I learned to lean on God strongly. I learned to be dogged about um, about my education. As you know, when you come to school, you're on an F1 visa, right? And it's taking a chance when organizations take a look at you, try to figure out if they want to hire you or not. It's that in itself is an ordeal, but thankfully, the first company I worked with, brought me on and provided that working visa that I was able to work on, right, with Honeywell. And since then, it's been really progressive in the terms of immigration status, right? We're talking about immigration. But that has been my journey. Very intentionally, I chose from the get-go. It wasn't really an option for me to do things the right way, right? I wasn't going to be illegal at any point in time. I wasn't going to be someone whose status wasn't right and so couldn't work. And I was very intentional about that.
Mhm.
And thankfully, by God's grace, it all worked out.
Mhm.
So I spent some time in Minneapolis, moved to Maryland as well. And through my stay in Minneapolis and then my first couple of roles here in Maryland, I was mostly in manufacturing, right? But always on the finance side, but in manufacturing. I loved it so, so, so much. And thereafter, a few of the organizations I worked with, including Schlumberger at the time, Newell Rubbermaid as well, US Food Service, ended up having to move either their division or their headquarters away from Maryland, and either to South America or somewhere in Europe. And at the time, I was starting a family. I wasn't really interested in getting up and moving at the time. I enjoyed traveling, but I would travel and then come back. And with all of that, I ended up really looking for an organization with tracks on the ground. And I say that it does sound funny because Metro is an organization with literal tracks on the ground, meaning that an organization that wouldn't get up and move. But as I prayed, I found this organization that was really more literal than I had expected. And I ended up at Metro. Um, I ended up at Metro, and it's been an interesting journey since then.
Okay, we will ask that. Please mute yourself. The way my setting is, I can't even mute people now. Very good. Very good. Hold the tracks. Can you mute yourself? I think I might be able to mute anyone.
The DA sits down with Vaughn.
Give me a second. I'm sorry. Let me mute. Okay, thank you. I can mute everyone. Thank you, Yetunde. You've said some very, very important and crucial things. And we're going to get there, but I think we can get there before we get to the tracks on the ground, meaning where you work, and you can tell people the full name of where you work at maybe in your question. So you were talking about being a mom and the jobs that you've had, some of them meaning that you were traveling. So you had to make some like decisions.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I can say, as an immigrant, your mother is not here, your father is not here. It's something we talk about in the book, that when people who migrate here as adults, especially without mom, without father, you lose a number of things, including that social support, right? And that will probably factor in some of the decisions that you're making. Now, speak to us about that. And you can tie it to how being an immigrant maybe shaped some of the choices that you had to make.
Sure, absolutely. I think it's one of those things, you learn fast when you don't have your immediate family around you. At least that's how it worked for me. I come again, my family, I'm not one of those last borns who was spoiled. I'm one of the last ones who I think is more on the vigorous side of things. And I'm very grateful to my parents and my siblings. I recall them trying to teach me how to swim many, many years ago as a child. I was in elementary school at the time, and I thought I could fake it, right? I thought, okay, if they drop me in the water and I sink to the bottom, somebody will come get me. And no, not my family. So I jumped in. I told you I was curious at the beginning of this, right? So I jumped in and I was hoping someone would come get me, if I sink to the bottom. So I intentionally sank and I waited for them to come jump in and come get me from the bottom. They did not come get me. So that's how I learned how to swim from an early age. I shot up very fast when my lungs were about to give out that, okay, this is not working. This strategy is not working. So you better just learn how to swim by yourself. And from that time, it's just become a part of me, right? To just keep going, keep learning. I learned how to swim. I'm not the best swimmer, but And I think that translates to many things, right? Throughout life, you might not be the best at it, but you learn how to survive in that mood, in that environment. And from that time, I just kept going, right, as well. Again, adapting to your environment. I moved here. I'm a mom. I have 3 adult children. If I can count the 15-year-old as an adult, I think she'll be so excited about that. But you learn how to juggle. I have an excellent husband, thank God. He's very supportive of me, and we juggle our children together, right? When he can't, I can. When I can't, he can. And when they were a lot younger, of course, you have your small network of babysitters to help here and there when you're not available. I recall my kids have spent nights in your house, Auntie Maria, right? Literally, when both of us had to be away for one reason or another. So you learn how to juggle with your village, to raise your children, right? And to make sure you give them a solid environment for thriving.
Wow. Yes. So you may not be the best at it, but keep moving, keep going.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that. You may not be the best at it. Somebody can put in the chat, you may not be the best at it, but keep moving, keep going as an immigrant. You may not have all the mother here, father here, brother here, but keep moving. Try. You will not sink. Somebody will rescue you. Then I like the thing that you said, that learn how to juggle with your village. Learn how to juggle with your village, friend support, friend group, you make family with those you have around. So learn how to juggle without. Okay. The part that we are all been hearing, I want to hear, because I haven't had a chat with you in a while about this day journey. I had the beginning, we had lunch together, but you are now at CFO, and I have to look at because your title is so long, I have to look at my phone. Pardon me. You are now the CFO. Let me look at it and read it well. I don't want to miss it. You are now the CFO for. Sorry, and this is slowing me down, but I should find it shortly. Yetune, help me. You help me. I can
help you, absolutely. I'm now the Chief Financial Officer and Executive Vice President at the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority.
Okay, wow.
A mouthful.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Tell us a little bit about the Metro. We all say Metro, but you mentioned the full name. But tell us a little bit before we go into you talking about the building blocks, because I see you one block at a time. Let me say that if you haven't seen an article on Yetunde in LinkedIn, she's a Aspen Institute Finance Leaders Fellow, and the story is very captivating. But tell us a little bit about Metro, what it is, the size and all that, because you have over 400 people reporting to you. And then tell us about the building blocks from staff to the executive level. Let's hear the full story.
Happy to share. So I joined Metro back, I want to say in December of 2010. It's been 13 years. 13 years. I joined as finance manager in the Office of Management and Budget Services, where I supported the director VP in developing the organization's operating budget. And I had a small staff of maybe 5 or 6 analysts who reported to me at the time. Metro intrigued me. I was very interested in doing good for my community. And in that role, I managed our annual operating expenses. I was very involved in operations and maintenance costs, and also an understanding of our operating revenues in that role. So it was interesting at the start. Kept moving on I'll talk a little bit about the size of Metro now. So from a very small group.
Miss Enid, there's somebody, Miss Enid, I didn't do anything wrong to you.
No, I can't see. Can you please mute yourself?
I did not do.
Hold on, have I muted? Yes, please. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, not a problem at all. So there as finance manager, a few years in, the director of the operating budget role became available. And I looked at the job description, I thought about it, I went back and forth a little bit. I'm like, should I, can I, is this going to work? What should I do? By this time, I had already gone through my MBA program as well. So I decided to go for it. Like, I'm just going to go for it, right? So I applied, I was interviewed, and shortly after I got the job. So I was promoted to the director of the operating budget role, and my influence and the capacity of work that I had, increased to where to more of a decision-making role within the operating budget, reporting definitely to the chief financial officer and advising the general manager at the time on operations and maintenance, revenues and expenses, our annual operating plan. So that went well for a while. And again, at the time, the operating budget was maybe close to $1.6, $1.7 billion budget. And so I did that at the time. And then shortly after, a few more years in, it was called managing director at the time, but is now called the vice president role. So the vice president role became available. And the span of that role was over the entire budget, right? Both the operating and capital, and with a much larger tag on it, and so many more direct reports reporting up to that role, upwards of 40 individuals and professionals, right? So again, I thought about it, went back and forth in my mind, prayed about it, and I decided to apply for the role. Thankfully, again, I was promoted. And in this role, you're working a lot more collaboratively across the entire organization. And Metro is like a small village as well, right? We have anywhere from engineering to information technology, health, safety. We even have our own police departments, and then the entire operations group. So our chief operating officer, who presides over the rail operations, bus operations, and our paratransit services as well. So fairly large organization of 13,000 employees to date. So at that time, I was the VP of the management and budget group. And then the VP of that group is in charge of the operating budget, the capital group, all the financial analysis and reporting, and grants management as well. We do receive grants from the federal government, and we work closely with our jurisdictional partners in Maryland, DC, and Virginia, because we are governed by an interstate compact. And our funding also comes from those three jurisdictions. So I went into this role with a lot of direct reports, but also, if you think about it, a lot of stakeholders outside the organization that I now had to interact with on a more regular basis. So I did this for a while, and again, the chief financial officer role became open. My mentor at the time was the chief financial officer himself, Mr. Dennis Anusike, and he was moving on from the organization. He had been with Metro going on 7 years or so, or 8 years. And the role became available. We just got a new general manager, and he appointed me as the acting chief financial officer. So there was a proving season as well with the general manager and chief executive officer. So I went through that season about maybe 2.5 months in or so. Again, conversation with the general manager, and I was selected for the role as the Chief Financial Officer. So that's an abridged version of the 13 years, going on 13 years, yes, this December actually,
Yes.
that I had been with Metro. It's been a journey. It hasn't always been a bed of roses.
Exactly. I wanted to, because we've had a nice part, one block after the other. That before, let me. I'll hold my thought, because I remember very well. We're sitting together. I know there's a professional thing that we're doing, and it was December. I can't remember whether your interview was December. I just want to tell someone that don't give up. The year, you have 2 more months to the year. If there's something you're looking for, continue pressing on. I remember where you were sitting in a black and white suit and you were talking about, it's not over till it's over, and the rest is history. But Yetun, I'm sure people want to hear the juicy part that you can share. Were there bumps in the road? Did you fall? Did you rise? What was it? I mean, no journey is just smooth riding. It will be fun. And I know you're an adventurous person.
Okay, no, absolutely. This one, there are definitely bumps in the road. You'll be doubted, right? You'll be questioned. Your authority will be questioned. So you may have the title of manager, director, all of these big titles, and you're still questioned whether you're an immigrant or not, right? In my case, of course, I'm a Black woman, right? That's what you see first. You just see a Black woman, and you see a Black woman with a Nigerian accent, or with an accent. They just say an accent, but I just tend to just go anyway, regardless of the biases that are there. There are lots of prejudices, and folks might not be excited about you. And I say it sometimes jokingly. I said, not everybody has good taste. And I leave it that way. That you don't like me, that's fine, because you may not have good taste, and that's okay. But through those prejudices and through a lot of the biases along the way, don't let those things discourage you. If we were counting and stacking up all the no's that you get along the way, a lot of folks would be discouraged and just throw in the towel that, I'm not even doing this anymore. Then what's your next option, right? If you don't do this anymore, then you failed, and then you stay on the side. So you're going to fall, right? So it's not in the number of times you fall. I think more so for me is in the number of times you get up and you keep going. So get up and keep going. And by the way, you're also going to have to continue to work with people who are among the naysayers. And that's okay. It only makes for a stronger individual, a more persistent individual. I would say a pastor of mine once mentioned, and he said something, he said, the Lord prepares the table before you in the presence of your enemy.
That's right.
And the second part of that verse, he added his own into it, and he said, and he expects you to eat.
That's deep. That's deep.
He expects you to eat. And I remember that every time I'm in a sticky situation and something is looking like it's not going right. I'm like, Yetunde, the Lord has prepared a table before you. You better eat. Don't waste that food.
And so goodness.
I jump in and I just keep going again. It motivates me to keep going when I remember those things.
Wow. So I would want you to talk about mentoring. You mentioned it, but if I can get a few people putting in these things in the chat, that would be great. Go regardless of the bias. Go. So I hear go, just go. Then folks may not be excited about you, but keep going, right? Get up and keep going. Then he said, work with the naysayers. Work with the naysayers makes you stronger. And eat. When you're invited to the table, eat. Whether it's your enemies, your friends, neutral. Let me read a few comments in the chat. Thank you for those of you joining. And I don't know if somebody can help me. I've asked someone to please, because I don't get to see what is happening on Facebook. He said, "You will not be the best at it, but keep going." Somebody wrote, "I love that." Then another person has written, "Not everyone has good taste." I love that. You're throwing some truth bombs here. Then I see Eunice read, "Positive and negative will always work together regardless." Perfect. Perfect. Okay. So thank you for those of you who are joining us. If you are watching the replay, thank you so much. I have with me Ms. Yetunde Olumide, who is the CFO and Executive Vice President of Metro. Metro is actually in Maryland. Is Maryland, DC?
Maryland, DC, and Virginia.
Maryland, DC, and Virginia. All the trains that you sit in. She's the CFO, and she's chatting with us about her story, her journey. So we are at the place where she said when she was talking about the different building blocks. So this is Yetunde, who started as a staff person and is now in the executive role. Thank you. Oh, I think I saw something for Bidana. I said, "I love you both. I'm cheering you on." I can't see that, but I think I saw
Good
it.
to
Okay.
see you.
Yeah, I think there's a comment from is it I thought there was something that I was seeing. Or already, I think that's your sister.
That's my sister.
There's a chat there, but I have to enlarge it to see. So I'll look at it and I'll read it out. Thank you all so much. I know from Nigeria, from England, from Maryland, from Arizona, from all over. Thank you so much for joining. Yetunde, as you were talking about your journey, you talked about mentoring. So mentoring is one of the chapters in the book. We are basing our conversations on breaking through. Mentoring is one of the topics. I want you to talk a little bit about the mentoring thing you talked about, and what role it has played in your journey thus far.
Thank you for that. I've actually been really, really blessed. Apart from my immediate, my siblings, who I want to say they're all my cheerleaders, my husband as well. I have really good friends around me. Some of them are on the call as well. Really good friends around me, and they're like my enablers. They cheer me on, and I'm very, very grateful for them. Along my journey at Metro, I met a mentor of mine, and I call him my brother now, who was our prior chief financial officer, Mr. Dennis Anosike. And all along, unknown to him, I was watching, and I was so we don't have a formal agreement that says, I'm your mentee, you are my mentor. I kind of just along my way, I have a way of collecting brothers and mentors along my journey, and he's one of those ones I've also collected along my journey. And I would watch, with curiosity. I would learn from the pluses and minuses. Hey, how is this person conducting themselves?
Mm-hmm.
How do they respond under fire? The role I'm in now requires me to be on camera so often, in board meetings, answering questions in public. And what do I, how do I conduct myself even when the cameras are rolling and I don't maybe I don't have the exact answer to a question? How do I still ensure that I can engage and answer as positively as possible, but still leave myself some wiggle room to say, you know what, and I'm going to come back with the rest of that information, or I'll follow up with the backup to that. Mm-hmm. So I did learn a lot, and I still do, as I continue to learn through life from Mr. Dennis Anosike and others who have mentored me along the way. I learned a lot from my current general manager, Mr. Randy Clark. Again, very smart individual, how decisions are made, how we push through in very, very tough times. We work through a funding deficit and having to go and visit through the different government agencies in Maryland, DC, and Virginia, and having to convince the officials that, we need more money to run Metro, and doing so with a lot of statistics, with analysis of our operations and maintenance costs, benchmarking with other transit agencies and municipalities in the DMV area, and showing going forward what we planned on doing with operating and maintenance costs, and really taking a microscope to our financials and explaining it, and gaining the trust of our fellow stakeholders, and confidence that we would be good stewards, we would be good financial stewards, and we would be good leaders for Metro. I went through that campaign vigorously, and to an extent still going through it with my general manager and other stakeholders within the organization. So again, for me, the mentoring is more informal, but I tend to key in when those around me are working with me, and gain what I can gain from them.
Wow, you make a very good point. So for you, the mentoring has been informal. You don't have some people have the written agreement. I'm going to mentor you, you're going to, but it has been informal. And I think there's a very, very important point. Sometimes the person you want to mentor you may not have access to the person, but you can learn from the person from afar, right? So
Absolutely.
that is great. You had said earlier on that your family is your cheerleader, and obviously. Already has already put in, if you can see the chat, she's made I don't know, like simple slides that one says, simple but sophisticated. The Lord has prepared a table before you in the presence of your enemies, and he expects you to eat. That is great. And then there's another one that she made. Not everyone has good taste. If you don't like me, that's fine. By Yetunde Olumide. Fantastic, fantastic. So, like I said earlier on, I was reading your article, the article written about you on LinkedIn. For those of you who joined a little bit late, Yetunde is an Aspen Institute Finance Leaders Fellow in America. That is a big, big deal. To be a fellow is a big, big deal. So congratulations on that. And the flyer said, dream big, start scared. This is actually taken from your article. The article has that title. And so do you want to talk to us a little bit about that? And I have a few other questions that I want to ask you. And also, if anyone has any question, please, by all means, put it in the chat for us. Thank you, and we'll get to it.
Sure. So my daughter plays volleyball, and my husband and I travel around. She's on a travel team, and we were in Philadelphia for a tournament of hers much earlier this year. And I was definitely looking for organizations that I could join and be more effective in my community. And as I think of my community now, my community is like the globe, right? It's no longer,
Right. Mm-hmm.
a small geographic environment. So as I browsed, I found COMTO, first of all, is a Conference of Minority Transportation Officials. And they were looking for new applicants for the next set of board members. And I looked at this, I was like, okay, let me read up a little bit more.
Hold on, you have been muted. I don't know why we are having.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. You were muted.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay. So I familiar with the organization somewhat. I attended a couple of events. So I decided to just research them a bit more. And as I learned about them, I said, you know what, I think this would be a good cause. And I'm going to put my application in and talk to someone to, collaborate with as I thought of joining this organization. So that worked out relatively quickly. I was contacted, process ensued, and I am currently a member of the COMTO board for the 2024-26 board of directors, and I serve as the treasurer secretary. Again, if you're not familiar with COMTO, feel free to go check them out online. It's COMTO, it's the Conference of Minority Transportation Officials. That same morning, it was like 4 a.m. My husband and my daughter was still sleeping, and I kept browsing, and I also found the Aspen Institute, which I'm also familiar with to an extent. My sister is an Aspen Fellow herself. And she had encouraged me a little bit, hey, look into this. And at the time I was like, you know what, my hands are so full. I don't think I have, flexibility to even do anything else. And I went on, as I looked, they were also looking for the next class of finance leaders, fellows, for the Aspen Institute, and for the 2024 to 26 class again. So I looked at that. I was like, you know what? I don't think this thing is a coincidence. Let me look into it a little bit more. And as I did, I worked with of course, my mentor. And I said, you know what, this might be interesting. And he ended up recommending me for the program. So he recommended me for the program. And shortly after that, I was contacted, moved forward, interviewed, and I was accepted just in September as a fellow for this program with about 23 other finance really strong candidates, I want to say, strong professionals across all spheres, public, private sector, venture capitalists, economists, finance ministers, across the entire world. And I'm just really glad I'm in the midst of folks who have, I want to say money on their mind, but in a very broad perspective, and thinking about how money can be a catalyst to help communities and to develop communities and individuals. So that's the story behind me joining on to become an Aspen Finance Fellow.
Speak a little bit to the dream big and start scared. You don't look like somebody who is a scary cat, or so speak to us. That might help somebody, help me as well.
Okay, no, not a problem at all. So I tend to sometimes, and I think to an extent we all do it, right? We look at something and we're like, oh man, look how that, shiny that thing looks, and maybe it intimidates us a little bit. And even though we don't have the spirit of fear, we still are a little apprehensive about moving forward in that direction. So if I'm the only one who feels that way, okay. But if there's anybody else out there who feels that way, you can be scared, you can be intimidated by it, it can freak you out in layman's terms, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't go for it. Right? That should not stop you from taking that first step forward. And as I thought about it, my husband reminded me after I was accepted for these two organizations to be on their board and to be a finance fellow. My husband reminded me, he said, you set out to do something and you did it. And I'm proud of you. And I looked at, I was like, whoa, I didn't think about it that way. Even though at the time of maybe seeing the first advertisement or seeing it online, I was, maybe had some butterflies in my stomach about, hey, should I even try this out? And I decided to try them out, and I'm glad I did. It worked out. I talked to my sister a lot. I think my first few board meetings when I want to say I was flying solo at the Washington Metro, she would calm me down before or maybe from the day before to the day of and tell me everything is going to be okay. Just go for it. Just do what you need to do. And I'm glad.
Yeah. So just go. So I keep on hearing the theme of go. It's like maybe it's somebody's word. Just go for it. Even if it might seem daunting, really. And somebody said if the goal or the vision is achievable, then it's not a vision. That it should be something that puts a little bit of fear in you.
Yes.
And I think that I hear you say that Eunice has put in venture afraid. And earlier on, I believe that venture afraid, just go. And earlier on, let me just, so I don't miss that, somebody said Tuskegee. I was there in 2005. I returned home and it has propelled me.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that's Marian Dorcas. She's actually in my house today, so we can
wonderful.
talk about that after. But it's, just so proud of you. And as you were talking, I was hearing all the different hats you're wearing, the different things. I know you've talked about that balance with family and, but how are you doing all of these on this board, Aspen Fellow, with 400 people reporting to you on your team? That's huge. How you balancing that act? It's a balancing fine act. Talk to us a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
It's definitely a balancing act. I tend to compartmentalize as well. I'm a planner, and I have a rigorous schedule, but I still, push to make sure that I spend adequate time on the most important issues, right? So at work, there are several departments reporting up to me: management and budget, accounting, treasury, procurement, real estate. I ensure that I spend adequate time with each of the leads. And then I also meet with other staff members as well as we push forward and talk through and make decisions, right, about our work and how we serve Metro. So I'm very intentional about that. I'm intentional about the schedule. I push on schedules as well. And we have a vision, our strategic transformation plan, for example, and jumping off of that strategic transformation plan, we tend to make our decisions and our projects are run based on achieving the goals within that plan. So again, working directly with my direct reports, but also with my colleagues throughout the organization, because I'm not an island, right?
Yeah.
Requires me to work collaboratively across the board. The hat of being a mom and a wife as well. I was that even before I was anything at the Washington Metro, before I came to the Washington Metro. And again, juggling my family and cooking and cleaning and laundry and all the fun stuff associated with being mom and wife and keeping house. To me, that's also fun.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. I actually took on during COVID, during the pandemic when most of us were working virtually. I started to notice little things, when you spend more time in your home than anywhere else, you start to notice little things. And for me, I was like, oh, okay, I don't like the color of this wall anymore. I'm going to learn how to paint. And so I learned how to paint. And I caught the bug of spending too much time watching HGTV, right? And improving one thing or another in the house. So before the 2 years was up, I had renovated my whole home, painted a bunch of things and replaced a bunch of things. But again, that was a function of the environment we were in at the time. But the juggling and the management, for me, it's being prepared, thinking ahead, and having a plan of your punch list of what you want to achieve, when you want to achieve it, and working on that plan very intentionally.
Okay. So and spend time on the most important things that prioritize, push on schedules, vision. So tell us a day in Yetunde's life. Do you have a lot of things you're doing? And the question is all actually leading to what are some of the resources or tools or skills or tips that you can give to folks? So Yetunde is juggling a lot of balls, and every ball is important.
Yes.
Tell us a day in Yetunde's life, maybe broad picture.
Absolutely. I go to DC pretty much every day. I also I live in Maryland and I go to commute into DC every day, mostly by train. I do have staff members in Virginia and also in Maryland, and so I try to spend time in all three locations as well. I Uh, there's so many ways I can answer this question, just thinking about the girth of what I do, but manage through
let
different activities, right, at work. Again, very schedule driven and plan driven. So my team, I ensure that we have like a 6-month rolling plan of what is going before the board of directors and preparation of the topics and how we develop the topics and the materials very on a very rigorous schedule as well. And I work through that with my team. And by the end of it can be fiery as we're working on things and developing different topics to go to our different stakeholders, but we make sure that happens, right? And we deliver. At home, this morning is a good example. I woke up very early this morning. I went to bed at a good time. I have some materials I'm reading now for my finance leaders program. And I looked and I was like, I think I am running behind, and that is not okay because my intention is to finish and then read it a second time before I show up for my my program shortly. So I was up early. I said, you know what, I'm going to read my materials. I'm going to use some artificial intelligence while I'm at it because I can speed things up that way. I have some things to drop off at the dry cleaner, and then I have to go to the post office. And I still need to join Marianne by 10:15, 10:20. So I'm up early and I was very intentional about how much time I was going to spend on each of those things and then get up and go. And it's very funny, but I did this morning before we got on this call. I did my reading. I knocked out and caught up to where I wanted to catch up. I made my notes. And this started at about 4 a.m. at Maria this morning. I caught up and I did those things. I said, okay, I feel good now. I'm in a good place. Saw my husband. Oh, I made breakfast for my husband as well before I went out. I got his breakfast done, made his breakfast, and then I dashed out to the dry cleaners and the post office, came back home, talked to my son and my daughter, and then started getting ready for this call. And again, I work with lists, whether the list is in my mind or I've written it down. I do work with lists, and I like to check the things off my list at the end of the day to say, okay, you know what? I've checked off my list. I feel good. I've done what I'm supposed to do.
That exactly, you answered my question. I was going to ask you, do you keep a list? Because there's a lot of stuff. You keep a list, okay? So for somebody out there, keeping a list, because that will help you remember. I'm looking at the questions that I have now. Your story is great. Talk to somebody. I think that you can talk to somebody who is just starting their career. One, and I see the people on some I know. There's also those who are also juggling, and I think creating a list will be good. But I want to be successful. I want to be like Yetunde when I grow up. Just give us 1, 2, 3 tips. We didn't get to all the topics. I know you come from a family of STEM and academics, but you chose a finance path. We didn't even get to that. You can find it in this article on LinkedIn. But just talk to someone who is starting out. I want to be successful. Just give us 1, 2, 3 tips, maybe 3 of your topmost tips for me to be as an immigrant. I don't know anyone, I don't have the social network that I need, but how can I be successful in my chosen path?
Absolutely, absolutely. For me, education is really key as well. Get your education. There are so many paths toward it. There are community colleges, there are bigger universities all over the place. Don't look down on any of the above. Learn, get your education. Be dogged about what you're doing. Because there's an obstacle there doesn't mean that you should stop and turn back. There are going to be obstacles. Learn how to deal with those obstacles where you are. If you turn back and go in a different directions, those obstacles might be waiting for you in the next place. And I'm not just talking about things, I'm talking about biases, I'm talking about prejudices, they are going to be waiting for you in the next place. So why run? Figure out how to deal with it where you are. And for me, how I have dealt with those things is being really good at what I do. Push forward with what you do. Spend more time understanding that report. Ask yourself questions about it. Do more research on it. Make sure you gain that knowledge that you need to be good at your job. When you're supposed to be working, don't be playing. Work when you're supposed to be working, right? And then keep play for playtime. So there's the education, there's the intentionality about it. And for me, practice. I tell my children this, some of them, actually all three of them have been athletes at one point in time. And I remind them that the reason why you have practice so much, hours and hours and hours of practice before the game that only lasts 45 minutes or 1 hour, you can have 20 hours of practice for that one game, is to tune your muscles, to get your muscles right and perfect for game time. So you're doing your homework and your essays and reading up on different materials and studying and doing, those assignments. That's your practice, right? As a leader, you're practicing all that time as a leader, as a professional, as a worker, whatever, role you find yourself in. Spend a lot of time developing those professional muscles so that when it's game time and the cameras are on, you're ready to go. And those 45 minutes, you're ready, you've done your homework, you're able to perform and be successful at what you do.
Wow. This is some good. In fact, I think I'm going to steal already's style of just creating the Yetundeisms. The truth bombs that have been education is one path, learn. She herself says she's a lifelong learner. So
Yes.
it's not surprising that education is on top. And there's Google University, there's so much, there's YouTube University. There's so much knowledge around us that you can improve yourself. Be intentional. It's not dogged about whatever you are doing. Don't turn back. Meet the obstacles. My colleague at work says, meet the monster head on. Meet the monster. He said, be good at what you do. And that really aligns with a chapter in the book that says that stand up and shine. Especially as an immigrant, you are representing your country, you are shining. Your success is all of us. Yetunde's success is my success. I go everywhere and do you know that the CFO of Metro is my bosom friend? Yeah, so let's all work at it, be the best. And she said, work and keep plans, then practice. Spend time on your professional muscles. Muscles are only developed after you've practiced. These are really, really good. I don't know whether there are any more comments from the chat by Yetunde. We are so proud of you. We know that the journey, I want to say the journey has just begun for you. Higher and more heights. Thank you everyone so much for joining. I know this was very short notice and I see that your tribe was here. So thank you all so much for joining from all over, let's say, the globe. Thank you so much. Next week, we have Dr. Ruth Dapa Efriye. She'll be speaking on emotional intelligence as immigrants, using emotional intelligence to succeed, to thrive in the workplace. So please feel free to join us. That might be the last one for the year, maybe, or one more. So feel free to join us. But Yetunde, I know we didn't tackle all the questions that we had, but I've been empowered, inspired, also learned from you, and keep going. Every one of us keep going. She said we should go. And I like the thing that you put, that you've been invited to the table. Even if your enemies, don't starve yourself because your enemy is there. It said the Lord has prepared the table before you in the presence of your enemies, and he expects you to eat. And the last one that your sister put out was that not everyone has good taste. the biases and all that. Not if you don't like me, that is fine. Good word, good word, good word. I think there's a last comment, and then LP Rachel said, well done, learned a lot. Thank you so much. It's exactly 12 o'clock, so we will end the broadcast now. Thank you, and see you again next week.
Thank you so much, Marianne. Thank you, everyone. God bless. Thank you all so much for joining. I thoroughly enjoyed this. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll do it again.